Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
I'm just getting carved into Delaney's OK Tire and Langley inbox.
Justifiably so.
Our guests today, including Farhan, standing by, sponsored by Bassan Motors. This spring, take a break from payments with a new-to-you vehicle. Learn more at basantmotors.com. This has nothing to do with my pick for the Fred J. Hume Award. Unsigned. Actually, it's from Jim on the Island. Delaney's OK Tire and Langley inbox. Donnie, a tie that is not tight doesn't make a fashion statement. It just looks sloppy and lazy. Stick with no tie. It works.
Oh, wow.
Maybe a sub-pole.
So he's saying your tie's not tight?
Yeah.
Well,
it's not.
Tighten it up then.
No, I'm okay. This is my statement here.
That it's loosey-goosey.
I think sloppy works.
All right.
Stop it right there. Farhan Lalji joins us now from TSN Canucks in Minnesota tonight. The first of their final 5 games. Farhan, thanks for doing this. How are you?
I'm good. I took my tie off thinking that, I know Rick is always casual. I thought you might join us, but I guess not. You should be like Brian Burke because you're getting about that vintage.
Yeah.
You can just take the tie and open it up and just let it hang.
Yeah. Hey, Brian's still got a couple years on me. I know that for a fact. Hey, Farhan, we're talking about the Canucks team awards this season. Miller, Demko, maybe Horvat. Who's your team MVP?
Yeah, I'd probably have to take Thatcher Demko. And truthfully, I think Thatcher Demko has been good, but not exceptional in the last month, right? I mean, again, good. But you look at the last game, kind of difficult situation for him to go into. But, you base his performance versus expected goals. You can't look at any shot and say that was a stinker. But when you look at it from a complete body of work for the entire season, it's been their best player. And when even during the Boudreau bump at the start of December, the guy was standing on his head. Player of the month in the league at one point. So I just think he's done so much right for such a long period of time for this season. He has been their best player from start to finish.
I know we've probably talked about this before, but Rick had an update on what's happening with Bruce Boudreau moments ago. What would your reaction be? What do you think Canucks fans' reaction would be if they didn't bring him back?
I think there'd be a lot of outrage. Yeah, I think people fell in love with Bruce. There it is. And look, you can't quibble with what he's done and the fact that this team has played 650 hockey since he took over on December 5th. I mean, he single-handedly brought back a belief in the group that allowed them to really play over their heads, because this is not a 650 roster for this much of a sample size. It just isn't. And I know that there's going to be a percentage of Canuck fans that are out there that'll say you're negative and they really are this good. They were just underperforming under Travis Green and what have you. The roster's just not good enough to be doing what they're doing. So you've got to give them some credit for that. And I think it'd be a big mistake not to bring him back.
Farhan, you were at the rink the other night with all this goaltender stuff happening. Halak, Demko, Martin. The belief is that the Canucks are saying Demko wasn't sick. Some people are hearing otherwise. What was going on there?
Well, you've got to ask Bruce Boudreau, because he's the guy that first brought it up. Because when he was asked after the game, he did talk about a sickness, going through the room when asked directly about why Spencer Martin was brought in. So you have to believe he was talking about one of his goaltenders, right? And if that goaltender didn't have some symptoms, you probably don't go so far as to fly a guy in, because it's not like Martin was sitting in Abbotsford at that moment. I think they had to bring him in from California. So
yeah, they did.
I was surprised at his reaction post-game, dropping an F-bomb. And, saying, what are you guys talking about, essentially, when it came to sickness, because he's the guy that brought it up when asked about it. So, it certainly seems as though Demko was dealing with something, but at the same time, he went in and he looked fine. And truthfully, if he was sick, why would you want him on the bench?
Yeah,
just so that he could infect everybody else, right? So it's pretty bizarre. And I think Bruce Boudreau's reaction was equally bizarre.
I want to go over to the BC Lions. Give us an update on their offseason. Hey, their season actually is not too far away, Farhan. What's happening with the Lions? And the Grey Cup odds were out a little while back. Not good for BC, which wasn't great. But what's the update on the Lions right now?
Well, some bad news, because they lost Steven Richardson.
That's
the
right.
club released that yesterday, and that's a big deal, just because when you look at all their free agent moves, and they made quite a few this offseason, and improved their roster for sure, he was the most important addition that they made. And not only that, he's the one guy they didn't overpay. right? Like they got him for value relative to what they paid some of the other guys, and he would have made a real difference along that defensive line. You talk to people around the league; he's a highly respected player, and even other executives talked about that being BC's biggest move. So to have him out for a significant portion of time during the season, I think is going to be a big blow for them, right? I mean, beyond that, we know the moves that were made. We know about the investment this team has made in Nathan Rourke, which is why their Grey Cup odds are so low, right? I think when you look at it and you look at a team like, Toronto, whose odds are pretty good, that's a belief in a proven commodity named Andrew Harris. Yeah. Nathan Rourke is an unproven commodity, and the odds reflect that. I'm a believer. I think he's going to have a really good year. I think he's going to get the Lions in the playoffs. But, I get why people on the outside who don't know how hard he's worked and how much he's developed and improved, and just the confidence he's given to so many in the organization. People don't know that, but I think that's the biggest thing with the odds. But the Richardson loss is a big deal.
Yeah, and he hurt himself in a workout session. I think it was last week, Farhan. Real unfortunate for him, and certainly the Lions and their fans as well. CFL Draft, May 3rd. What can you tell us about John Mechie, Alabama wide receiver, Canadian, two-time winner of the Cornish Trophy?
I think I'd be surprised if he got drafted at all in the CFL draft, even though he's the number one ranked player on the board, because I think he's going to go in the second round of the NFL draft. So we're going to be in Vegas next week and covering that. He's going to be in Florida having his draft party there. Both he and Jesse Luketa, the Ottawa linebacker from Penn State, expected to go in the draft. Luketa probably around the 5th round. But, Mechie's recovering from an injury. Tore his ACL in the SEC championship game, progressing ahead of schedule, expected to be ready for, if not the start of training camp, certainly early on in training camp. For the 3rd straight year, it's a very, very deep receiver class. But, you look at a guy like Jameson Williams, same injury, a month later, he's still being able to hold his value in the 1st round. Drake London from USC, receiver, broken ankle, still hasn't run a 40. He's holding his draft value in the 1st round. Mechie's value has dropped a bit, but I still think he goes high enough. He's probably going to be the highest Canadian selected since North Vancouver's Jerome Pathon, as far as a skill position player is concerned. And I think he's going to have a long NFL career.
Yeah, as Jerome did. It's amazing how players, athletes these days recover so quickly from knee problems. Certainly wasn't the case in years gone by. Farhan, thanks so much for this. All the best.
All right, take care, guys. We'll talk next week.